today, depending on your class, the date here is a little bit different. But today for all of you, your task is to research for source 1, take your notes, and start source 2. So where you'll be doing that is right here on the back of your giant paper where it says source 1, and we see we're going to need a title. We're going to take some overall notes. We're going to make sure we look for how our topic impacted the North and how the topic impacted the South. And that makes sure that when we get to our final product, we'll be able to answer our overall summary and the 2 different perspectives. Now, with that being said, when you're searching source 1, you may not find the impact of the North, or you might not find the impact of the South. It just means when you go look for your second source, you have to find the missing information. So we're looking for our first source, but we're also going to have to practice the skills Mrs. Boccuzzi-Reichert taught us, and we're going to have to evaluate our source. So when we're looking at the website, we need to know the purpose of the source and why the author created it. So we want to really think about what is the author trying to do for this source, and we want to take some bulleted notes here. We want to think, is there a point of view? Is there a bias? Does the author have a clear opinion that they are trying to get across to us, or maybe a subtle opinion they're trying to get across to us? If there is, we want to jot down what the author's opinion is right here. Doesn't mean we can't use the source if there's an opinion, but we do have to recognize there is one. What are the weaknesses? What are the problems? What are the things that concern you or make you say, hey, you know, this might not be the best source, but I think it's okay to go ahead with it anyways. And then what are the strengths? What are those things that make you go, yep, I'm going to use this source. This is worth it. Little heads up. If the weaknesses are stronger than the strengths, if there's more weaknesses than strengths, don't use it. So a filled out form would look like this. We can see we have the source title, New York State Hall of Governors, and we wrote down the URL so that we can go back and find it later if we need to look up more information. When I took notes, I did the topic and I put information underneath. So we have subheadings and information, and I have subheadings and information over here. And you can look at how I evaluated the source, and you can see this is pretty detailed. Now, I'm going to not spend a lot of time on this now because you can look at the sample on Google Classroom, but I wanted to point out the level of detail. You, though, are facing a blank piece of paper, and you need to find your first source. So a couple of places we can go. We're going to go to the internet. One of my favorite places, honestly, is history.com. History.com in the upper right-hand corner has this wonderful little search button, and I could search. So if my question was, how did women impact the Civil War? I could do women, and if I look, it just pops up even women in the Civil War. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to take a second. And this is where we have to be cautious readers and notice, look at, even our first one say add, add, add. These are probably things that I'm going to want to avoid. So if I scroll down even more, I can see, all right, this is history.com, history.com, Civil War and its legacy. Legacy means after the war. So this probably is not something that I totally want to focus on because its attention will be on a time period later than I want. So I'm going to start with this first one. It looks good, looks generic. History.com. I'm going to close the little pop-up. And we're loading, and I scroll down. And I do get a video. It can be helpful, but honestly, we'll pause that video. And I scroll down and I get the text. So I've got background. Oh, look, women in the war fighting for the Union and women in the war fighting for the Confederacy, slaves and freed women, a woman's proper place. So this seems to offer quite a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I would evaluate it just like Mrs. Boccuzzi-Reichert taught you. And when I'm going to write my source title, I would use Women in the Civil War, and then I would also write down this URL right up here on my source line, and then I could take my notes. And like I said, this one had the two things quite clearly. But let's say History.com didn't have what I wanted. Another option could be Duxter's. It's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, but it's not a bad place to start for day one looking for a simple overview. So that's Duxters.com as an option. Another good option is to go to the school website, Merton Williams. Over here, Dr. Lorraine A. Sherwood Library. And I finally get to the library and I notice a tab, Civil War. And right up here, I have other tabs that can help me find things. So for people, look at all the different links that are provided for people. I could go, if some of you are doing battles, although remember, I really recommended staying away from it. Technology, my weapons, the different technologies, the ironclads, and then others. I have soldier's life, medicine, and prison camps. There's another option. If you are still not finding what you want, a Google search can work, but you have to pause and think. If I just were to search for the word women, I'm likely to find everything known to man about women, not what I want. So I could do women in the Civil War, and I could do, let's say I'm really short on information on the Confederacy. Confederacy. And then I can search. And what I see here, this is the article I've already used. I want to skip that. This one, the word encyclopedia worries me a bit. And I can scroll down and I can pick what I think is good. Keep in mind, if it's Wikipedia, I do not want you using it. So before you go off on your own, source 1 should be done today in class. And your goal is to get about half of source 2 done before the end of class today. All right, independent, silent work. Get to work.